Hello there everybody and welcome back to Movie Squirm. Today I'm going to be reviewing the remake of The Omen from 2006, and this is directed by John Moore and stars Liev Schreiber and Julia Stiles. This tells the story of a couple whose adopted child is the son of the devil. Now, I'm going to be honest guys, this was another first time watch for me, just like The Omen 4. I'd always enjoyed the original trilogy, and if you want to see my thoughts on them movies, I'll leave it in the link down below to my Omen review series. But I just kind of stayed away from this one when the time it released. I kind of had no intention in 2006 at that age to watch a remake of The Omen. Can't quite recall why, but I just didn't hear the best things about it at the time. And a lot of the time I used to go off the newspaper reviews when I used to read newspapers in work, and that would make me decide whether or not to go and see a movie or not. And I remember this one getting a few bad reviews. So it just really dwindled, and I haven't had no desire to go and watch this one until now, because obviously the first Omen is coming out next week and I wanted to watch the entire franchise leading up to it. And weirdly, after watching the first three and the Omen 4, I was quite excited to visit this one, just to see what a remake of The Omen could actually be like. So what did I think? Let's find out. First off, I just want to mention the cast is absolutely stacked in this film. I think Liev Schreiber and Julia Stiles do a good job of the adopted parents of this Damien. With Julia Stiles, you kind of believe in the trauma she's going through here. She knows something isn't quite right with her son. And I just think them two felt like a real couple. I think they've done a job. I mean, it carries on from the great castings of the Omens in the first and second film especially. I mean, they're not exactly on the level of Gregory Peck and Lee Remick or anything like that, but it's nice to see a fully star-studded cast here, because we've also got David Thewlis, who I'm a big fan of, especially after seeing him in Gangster #1 and stuff, but he's been in a ton of movies, Fargo Season 3 of course, and also we have Pete Postlethwaite, rest in peace to him, but he is just an elite actor anyway, so there's a real crop of talent on board here, and everyone does a job. However, the biggest standout in this film for me was Mia Farrow, who weirdly is starring in another movie about, well, the same subject matter, let's put it this way, as Rosemary's Baby did. And I just love her in everything I see her in. Every time Mia Farrow turns up in a movie, I think she does a phenomenal job. And this is no different. She's fantastic in Rosemary's Baby and See No Evil. And here, she's just elite actress. I mean, Mrs. Baylock, played by Billy Whitelaw in the original film, for me was a real, unspoken character. Everyone talks about Gregory Peck's performance and stuff, but here, she was fantastic in that film. And I did give that a mention in my original Omen review, that she deserves a lot more credit, because I never really hear people speak about her. But I gotta be honest, if there's one thing that the Omen remake done better, I think it might be the character of Mrs. Baylock, because Mia Farrow just brings this real likability to this character, but deep down she is just this evil apostle of Satan, really. I think she balances that so well. I mean, she is wonderful in this film.
Hello, Damien. I'm here to protect you.
This movie is also very nicely shot. It's a very clean, crisp looking Omen film. And what I'm about to get into in a minute, where it doesn't do too many things different, there are a couple of sort of mini dream sequences that don't last too long, thankfully. But I thought some of them were quite creepy to look at. It only happens once or twice, but when it did, I was like, holy shit, that looks quite terrifying there. And this is more of a subjective point, whether you've seen the original Omen based on your age or whatever type of movie you prefer. But if you've never seen the original Omen, this might just work for you a lot more than it did for me or people who are fans of the original Omen, because this does a hell of a lot of the same things, which I'm going to speak about again in just a minute. But if you're new to this story and you want to watch an Omen movie before the first Omen comes out, or you just want to see an Omen movie anyway, this one might work for you. But as a fan of the original Omen, that just seemed more of a problem to me personally. Now, only some differences here that I can say that I kind of noticed, where the whole setup of Damien's second coming here, that was interesting. It kind of leans into real world events and stuff like disasters and stuff that have happened over the years are the stepping stones of Damien being reborn into this world, the Antichrist, basically. Stuff like 9/11 and stuff, the tsunami, these are all like when an angel blows its horn, and we are getting a step closer to Satan's son being born. And I thought that was nice and interesting, even though it only happens in the very first scene. Also, I will say the scene where Mrs. Baylock kills Kate in this movie may have been a little bit better than the original Omen. So in the first movie, she kind of just pushes her out the window. But here, I was expecting that to happen once again, because every other scene in this film is kind of the same. But when we get to this moment, Mia Farrow really does have her moment, and it's probably the best moment in the entire film, because instead of pushing it out the window, she kind of injects this air bubble into the drip that's going into Kate there, and it is a little bit of well-built tension there. She kind of puts her hand over her mouth, and you're just waiting for this air bubble to go in. While Julia Stiles' character is just panicking like hell, and Mia Farrow's going, "It's all right. It'll be over in a minute." With that soft-spoken voice she's got. And that was by a mile the best part of the movie for me. So I'm glad they changed that up a bit. However, guys, as you may be able to tell with this review so far, my biggest gripe with this movie, and it brings it down a hell of a lot, is that this is just basically a shot-for-shot remake. It doesn't really do too many things different. Even the scene where Mrs. Baylock injecting that air bubble into Julia Stiles, it's still the same outcome, but most of the rest of the film is exactly the same as the original Omen. The nanny says, "This is all for you, Damien." Yes, she jumps out of a window and hangs herself. Could we have not done something a little bit different there? I mean, there is even some lines of dialogue that are exactly the same. The story beats are exactly the same. I mean, even the part where, Richard Thorne is just finding out about Damien with Keith in the second half of the movie, the photographer. It's just all the same thing. They see the jackal. They see his kid that was murdered in the same cemetery. I mean, Keith is decapitated, even though that is done really well, but he's still decapitated. It's still the same thing. But like I said, nicely directed. It did look awesome, but same outcome once again. I can't get behind remakes that do this. I am not against remakes. Some remakes out there are films that I actually prefer over the original. The Hills Have Eyes is one that I can think of at the top of my head. But this is just too similar to the original film. I am always going to go back to the original instead of visiting this remake. Even though it's more polished, it's more modern, the original just has all the heart there. This is just a little bit of a lazy attempt to copy the first film. It's easy cash flow, it's easy writing, it's easy directing, really, isn't it? Let's be honest. They don't really have to change too much up. They're just copying homework. And remakes like that just don't work for me at all. If you're going to remake a movie, do something a little bit different, because we have always got that original classic, and that still stands the test of time. And I got to say, guys, as good as the acting is from everyone here, the one little negative I would say was Seamus Davy Fitzpatrick as Damien. Now, he's not terrible or anything like that, but he just looks a little bit too angelic to be the devil's son. Now, if you to go back to Harvey Stevens in the original film, he does have that little bit of an evil look about him, that evil glint in his eye. But here, I just didn't believe it whatsoever. That evil, demonic feel inside him just doesn't seem to be there. And I believe he wasn't even told that he was playing the devil's son in this movie. If they told him, maybe that would have helped his performance along. But I think they felt he was too young for that. I mean, come on, man. You could have really elevated that kid's performance there. But no, I just don't think the character worked at all in this film, unfortunately. However, guys, I don't think this is a bad movie or anything. It's just a nothing movie. It's a watchable film. Don't get me wrong. You can sit there and enjoy it. But it just feels like a bit of a cop-out, a little bit of a stamp on the head to Omen fans, because I imagine back in 2006, people may have been really looking forward to this who are fans of the Omen, and they just got the damn same thing, and they would have walked out and went, really, why have they just done that? It's the exact same movie. So if you're going to do a remake, please do something a little bit different. Please don't just copy the same template, which is unfortunately what this film does. Like I said, watchable, but it loses a lot of points for me for just doing the same thing. I'm just going to go ahead and rate this movie now. I'm going to give the Omen remake from 2006 a 5 out of 10. Probably a little bit of a generous 5, but I had enough fun with it. It's just a very lazy film. Hey guys, at the end of these reviews, I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now, a fun fact for the Omen remake is that Harvey Stephens, at about 20 minutes into this film, actually appears in the movie. He is a journalist who asks Robert Thorne, yes, I know I said Richard Thorne earlier, I meant Robert, about if the nanny who killed herself at the party was actually on drugs. So, little cameo there. Okay guys, I hope you all enjoyed this review. Please let me know what you think about the Omen 2006 remake. Do you actually prefer it to the original, or was you kind of pissed off it was a shot-for-shot remake? Please let me know in the comments. I'll get back to you all, I promise. Thanks so much. You take care, and I'll see you on the next video.